People join organizations, but they leave people.
Culture eats strategy for breakfast.
We're seeing macro change at a pace that is unprecedented.
Every new technology coming in, a new product is coming, a new solution is coming. With that, a new risk is also emanating.
I'm focused a lot on the risks that AI is bringing so that we are ready for the future.
Internal audit has to be on their toes to assess risk on a very regular basis.
Resilient organizations really start with a resilient board.
I always believe that a CAE doesn't need an audit report to bring change.
We share a passion for two things: elevating the profession and also young talent.
Most important thing for internal auditors is how are we going to audit AI itself?
Impact and value creation is not really only about what we do, but it's about how we are perceived and how we partner with others to make it happen.
Much more regularly than what we are used to is a mandatory requirement for any internal audit function to keep adding value in this ever-changing world.
You know you're meant for more. More meaning, more influence, more impact. Welcome to Impact Legacy with Rania. I'm Rania Bejjani, board advisor and mentor to leaders globally. I'm here to show you how to stand out, shine, and lead with more authenticity, heart, and joy. Join me and my guests as we share inspiring human stories and decode the mindset and strategies you need to build trust, influence at the top table, and claim your impact in the AI era. Your legacy starts now. Let's begin. Welcome to a new episode of Impact Legacy with me, Rania. Today, we'll explore leadership, impact, and legacy through the lens of the internal audit and risk management profession. I'm delighted to welcome Biju Nair, Chief Audit Executive at United Arab Bank in the UAE, and a widely respected leader in banking, audit, and digital risk. Biju brings over 30 years of experience, including more than 15 years at chief level across India and the UAE, with the distinction of having led internal audit for a conventional bank, an Islamic bank, and a digital bank, and being part of the founding teams of two banks in the region. Beyond his executive role, Biju is also chairman of the Banking and Finance Subgroup of the UAE Internal Auditors Association. He's also a regular international conference speaker and a passionate mentor to the next generation of audit and cyber leaders. With deep expertise and qualifications spanning governance, digital transformation, cybersecurity, and fraud, Biju is a strong advocate for reimagining internal audit as a forward-looking, predictive, and value-creating function. And that's exactly what we will be discussing today. Biju, welcome to my show. What a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Rania, for inviting me to this podcast. In fact, actually, I'm honored because I'm right now sitting in front of somebody who has been recognized as the audit beacon by none other than 𝗕𝗶𝗷𝗂. So congratulations for that. And I really look forward to this conversation with you.
Thank you. I am honored and humbled and really grateful for the award. There are so many amazing audit leaders doing great jobs all over the world. So for me, this is like I dedicate it to all of them, to all the unsung heroes, as well as everyone that is in the public eye. Biju, tell us a bit more about your career and leadership journey and what really shaped yourself as a leader.
Yeah, Rania, before I go back into my career journey, let me tell you a few things about what we are trying to do today here. Like you said in the introduction, we are not only talking about the legacy of internal audit, we are also talking about the future of internal audit in this session. And again, that is where I want our discussions to focus in the next few minutes on this. My career has been always in the banking industry. Last 30 years has been in the banking industry. I saw the evolution of banking, right from when it goes in the big fat ledgers to when it became the digital banking generations of the world. So along with that, parallelly, I saw how controls, governance, risk, and all have been developing in the financial sector specifically. Had the opportunity to work in multiple banks, almost 10 years in India, and the last 20 years in UAE in multiple roles. Started my career in the frontline function. In fact, I was a cash officer when I started the banking journey long time back. So then moved into different roles, specialized in technology, banking technology to be specific, then specialized in cybersecurity in early or late 90s, early 2000, when banking sector was getting into digital journey, I had the opportunity to be part of that journey in one of the leading banks in India. So that is where I was specializing in cybersecurity aspects and all. So
Mm-hmm.
then moved into audit. Audit became my go-to place for long years now. Grew to C-level executive in audit. So last 15 years, I've been heading internal audit in multiple banks. Uh, very, very happy and proud to represent my bank as well as the internal audit community in this discussion with you.
That's wonderful, and quite a rich career. 30 years is a we almost have a similar you're a couple of years ahead of me, but similar timeline, and there's so many experiences that we can draw on. What do you think were like pivotal moments in your career that shaped you as a leader today?
See, there were many, many moments, of course. Actually, I cannot spell out one specific moment where it defined me as a leader. But again, if I talk about the transitional journey, one was definitely the digital revolution, which has happened in late 90s. So that is when actually I thought, okay, I'm not just a conventional banker. Actually, I love this technology being an enabler for everything you do. So obviously, my pivot into the technology happened at that stage, and I carried it all through. So as an audit leader, what I brought probably new to the table is also that background on technology. So if you ask me my impact on internal audit, I think it is something which probably I see internal audit as somebody who can leverage technologies just like any other business unit and provide that much value to the stakeholders. So probably that is what actually I created as an impact as a leader in internal audit spectrum.
That's really wonderful. And that technological revolution in the 90s is now on steroid with AI, but we'll talk about that a bit more. First, let's kind of understand a little bit more and introduce you a little bit more to our audience. Besides doing your role as Chief Audit Executive at United Arab Bank, you're also the chairman of the Banking and Finance Subgroup as part of the UAE Internal Auditors Association. So tell us a bit more about that. Like, what does that role mean to you, and what impact you're hoping that you will have on the profession through that in the UAE?
Yeah, that's part of me. I've always been involved in industry activities right from very early days. Actually, I was part of the ISACA board when I did my CISA certification long time back. So immediately I became part of ISACA and served the ISACA board in UAE for nearly 10 plus years. Then when I became the CAE, I thought actually I can do much more into internal audit domain, and that is when I got associated with IAA more and more. And UAE Internal Auditors Association has got different verticals like government vertical, their banking and financial services vertical, ESG vertical, etc., etc. So I have been asked by the president of UAE, Mr. 𝗕𝗏𝗷𝗔𝗂, to chair the banking, insurance, and financial sector vertical. So for the last 3 years now, I am doing that, and we are actually we are bringing together all internal auditors from banks, insurance companies, and other financial services companies into one umbrella, and creating learning opportunities and a platform for sharing information and discussing the common problems, etc., in that platform. We used to conduct monthly CPE meetings, at least once in a month or once in 2 months. We used to conduct regular CPE meetings where industry leaders and experts like yourself come and talk about various topics and all. And also this year, actually, under UAIA, we are doing an exclusive conference for banking and financial sectors internal auditors. Not only internal auditors, we are expecting others from compliance and risk management also to participate. It's a digital conference. So all these activities are something which we are doing to bring the industry together, so that actually we know where internal audit function is headed to, and IAA is able to handhold those who needs some support, whether it is in the quality assurance aspect, whether it is in technology related aspects, etc., and jointly address the challenges in the industry.
That sounds really great. I really admire the work that the UAE IIA is doing in building a strong, future ready profession for the region. And So, what excites you most about the direction that the UAE IIA is taking?
Yeah, see, UAE has been taking a lot of initiatives. Actually, recently we had a tie-up actually with 𝗕𝗶𝗷𝗂, the Corporate Governance Institute, where
Yes.
yeah, UAE is trying to support them in those governance-related initiatives, which is very much needed. I believe that actually one of the areas where internal auditors are still not comfortable getting into is when it comes to strategy audit or corporate governance audits, etc. Probably this tie-up will definitely help in bringing internal audit profession up to the curve with respect to those areas and all. And similarly, IA is also doing a lot of tie-ups and a lot of initiative with respect to technology, AI related stuff and all. So that is another area where internal auditors are still doing the catch-up game. And I believe that actually IA's intervention at the right moments will help internal audit to fast track our future journey towards a future.
That sounds fantastic. And as a matter of fact, countries like the UAE, like Saudi Arabia, like Singapore are actually leading now in terms of putting more emphasis on governance and kind of legislating it. So that's really interesting to see, and sounds great. Sounds great. So what you just said actually is a great segue to looking at the wider world and what's happening with the wider world and the role of governance, risk, and audit, and particularly taking a risk lens. Biju, technology, but it's not only technology, right? There's so much happening in the world right now. We're seeing macro change at a pace that is unprecedented, geopolitical, and a lot of that happening, and economics, regulatory changes, climate change, and of course, AI. And all of these macro events are directly impacting organizations in the way they interact, and it's creating a lot of opportunities, but it's also creating a lot of risk. How are you, as a chief audit executive, preparing UAE for those complexities that are coming up to build the resilience in your business?
Yeah, you rightly said, Rania. Actually, the world is changing, and so is the financial services sector, right? We have been seeing drastic changes in the banking industry for the last 10, 15 years, whether it is coming to open banking or more recently the tokenization, which is actually taking a big discussion point in the financial service industry.
Yes.
These are all challenges, which is as well as opportunities for any bank. Just like the other banks in the region, UAB is also prepared to handle these challenges and ride the wave as and when it is necessary. And we are prepared to address our requirements for the customers and be there when they need us with respect to all the latest technology and tools, whether it is coming to crypto as and when it is going to become mainstream, or tokenization, actually, when it is already coming up in a big way in UAE. So all these things, UAB is also very well prepared. From an internal audit perspective, again, this is one thing which I said in the starting of my discussion also. These are areas where it is a catch-up game for internal audit. The business is moving at a tremendous pace. With every new technology coming in, a new product is coming in, a new solution is coming in. So with that, a new risk is also emanating, right? Risk is coming at a faster pace than we can even imagine. So
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So obviously, internal audit has to be top of their game. If we go with the traditional model of a structured 3-year audit plan divided into annual audit plans and complete the entire audit universe once in 3 years or once in 5 years, as per your risk appetite, it's not going to be good enough anymore.
Absolutely.
So internal audit has to be on their toes to assess risk on a very regular basis. I'll not say on a real-time basis. Maybe it is too aggressive for an internal auditor to say that I'm assessing risk on a real-time basis. But having said that, much more regularly than what we are used to is a mandatory requirement for any internal audit function to keep adding value in this ever-changing world. That's my 2 cents to that, Rania.
Great. Are you engaging with the leaders, with the other third line of defense any differently?
See, not only third line of defense, of course, third line of defense we discuss very regularly on our challenges and all, but I am a strong proponent of aligned assurance. That is one area which I believe we need to talk more often. See, one of the challenges internal auditors have traditionally been having was we are taking our role of independence too seriously. I sometimes feel that we distance ourselves from the organization so much and we alienate ourselves, and it becomes easier for our business stakeholders to keep us at arm's length, saying that you are independent and all. I think that is where actually sometimes some of the CAEs lose focus on the entire organization dynamics and not keep up with the change of pace in which the organization is moving. So what I propose to the industry is that bring an aligned assurance format, actually, wherein first line, second line, third line assurance functions work very closely with each other. Come up with areas where you can work together, complement each other, at the same time maintain your role within the organization, whether it is first line, second line, third line. You maintain your roles, leverage on each other, complement each other, and add value to the organization.
This is this is absolutely music to my ears, Biju. I don't know if I can't remember if you were in the conference in the GPRC conference in Dubai about a year ago. Actually, I spoke about that topic. I presented on really the need for bringing assurance together, and more recently here in London, I spoke at the 𝗨𝗶𝗶, the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. I spoke in the conference, and also I raised the point about how important to have a form of an integrated, aligned, harmonized, more cohesive assurance. And also now I'm focused a lot on the risks that AI is bringing, and with that, the need for more aligned, integrated, harmonized assurance so that we are ready for the future. So we'll talk more about that as we dive into internal audit, but we're fully aligned, and I'm with you 100%. This is very, very important, actually. Actually, I wrote an article about that. It's on my LinkedIn as well. This actually also resonates so much because you, as a banking industry, and like many other regulated industries, there is an element of much higher cost to compliance, and there is an element of audit fatigue and all that. So that integrated assurance also brings benefits, tangible benefits to the business in terms of efficiency, etc. Do you have some thoughts on that? I know that you were in a previous conversation, you mentioned to me you're putting a framework together that you would want to share with the world. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, obviously, actually, the 2 points which you highlighted, cost of compliance and audit fatigue, definitely these two are very key elements why people like me are proposing more and more of aligned assurance frameworks coming to the organizations. Within the framework of central bank expectations and IAA guidelines, we can still come up with the aligned assurance frameworks and all. I met the audit committee. My audit committee was very supportive on this topic. And we had a conversations, multiple rounds of conversation with Chief Risk Officer, Chief Compliance Officer, and CEO. All of them are aligned because actually the problem is same, right? We are seeing audit fatigue across organizations, all organizations, in fact, especially highly regulated organizations like financial services industries. Yeah. We have multiple times actually same auditees are getting bombarded with a lot of audits back to back, and also natural audit fatigue will come in. So I'm not talking about reducing the oversight or anything like that. I'm only talking about bringing value from all these assurance by complementing each other. One big advantage for that aligned assurance model is that we can ensure that nothing falls between the cracks. See, right now, actually, internal audit is doing risk-based audit. Second line functions, actually internal control or operational risk functions, they are also having their own risk-based function. Regulatory assurance functions, they have their own risk-based models. First line functions have got their own models. So between all these models, are we sure that we are giving the right kind of assurance to all stakeholders is sometimes actually I keep myself thinking. So when you bring all these elements together and start working seamlessly, I believe actually a better assurance can be given at a lesser cost, obviously, and less audit fatigue. So
I'm
these are
totally with you.
yeah. So this is something which it's still work in progress. But again, for that, one important thing which internal auditors, if internal audit has to drive it, internal audit has to gain the trust of second line, first line, as well as the CEO and audit committee on this. So, so that is a very important thing actually. Unless that trust is established, that we are all in it together, we are working as a team to ensure that the organization's controls and governance are protected. This will not materialize. Otherwise, everybody will have their own interest and all. So
Absolutely.
first and foremost is establish your position in the organization and then get into this model framework.
I am totally with you, Biju. Actually, I advocate that audit and risk should be together. I know that in banking sector there are legislations that would prevent that, but I really advocate that it should be together. And when I was in an executive role, and as you know, I was Chief Audit and Risk Executive 3 times. Actually, twice I was Chief Audit and Executive together, and one it was just the audit function, but it was a massive, function with 80 people all over the world. But the point I experienced is when you have audit and risk together, then there is a lot more coordination, cohesion. I mean, even if the reporting lines are not identical because of certain regulatory requirements, a higher degree of collaboration and of information sharing, of data sharing, of insights, of interaction. I find that it is essential, like you said, and absolutely, because audit tends to be looking sometimes at the past, and a risk, if done properly, it should be looking at the future. And when they come together, you've got a much stronger and so a much stronger basis to support the business going, in all its aspects, learning from the lessons of the past, but also drawing those insights to shape the future. And risk is looking at a macro level, and audit is looking at the micro level, and they come together.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I have a slightly different view on that because from a financial services
Okay.
sector, because from a financial services industry, you cannot have those two functions together again. Because actually there is clear mandate of the chief risk officer, what he has to do, what he should not be doing. Similarly, CAE also has got clear mandate from regulators across the world. So obviously you cannot merge these two functions together, especially when it comes to certain market risk, model risk, etc., etc. Risk has got specific areas to be covered. But having said that, collaborative environment is a mandatory thing. Like you said, sharing of information, sharing of data, having the right kind of assessment of the risk means the way
Yes.
CRO talks about the risk, organization risk, and CAE talks about organization risk should be aligned. You cannot have
Yes.
two different lexicons, two different kind of language to define a risk, so that both get confused with the two different signals going to them. So these alignments should be there, and that is where actually I'm talking about aligned assurance. That is where we are striving to come up with a single kind of a view of risk and controls and governance across the organization.
That's wonderful. Let's collaborate more on this. This is very big in the work I do. As I mentioned, actually, I do a lot of that work with boards to get that, one connected line of sight, from risk to the controls to the assurance to the governance to the oversight, and how the different parts to come together. I understand there are regulatory requirements in banking and specific rules for CRO, but yeah, definitely bringing that harmony is really important. So continuing our conversation around risks, we can't escape what's happening now in the world, above and beyond tokenizations and macroeconomic and changes, and we've got AI. AI is sweeping through the world, and it brings enormous opportunities as well as, risks. And anyway, the opportunity is really to rethink the business, and the AI brings the opportunity to truly take a transformative view about business. It's not just a tool that yet another analytical tool. It's really a step up perspective as to how can we reimagine and redesign the business and the different functions to truly deliver the intended value of efficiency, of automation, of doing things at a grander scale and a grander benefits. But it also brings in a lot of risks, which are often, frankly, misunderstood. When I talk to a lot of people and work with clients, and I have conversations with boards, and I believe that AI risks are not often well understood. So, how do you see AI being an opportunity and a risk in the banking sector through your lens at UAB?
Yeah. Um, See, with respect to I still believe AI has not reached the plateau of productivity area with respect to that Gardner hype cycle of technology, right? It is somewhere in the still at the hype of expectation, the top of the expectation cycle.
Uh-huh.
So it will come through the curve, and it will definitely reach the plateau of productivity much faster than many other technologies, the way it is going. And I'm a strong believer that AI is here for the future. There is no arguing on that. Just like in the 90s, when internet became popular, there were two thoughts around that. Okay, internet is going to bring a lot of risk. A lot of data is going to be shared across the world, and a lot of issues are going to come up. But there was a second set of thought that actually definitely is going to change the way business is going to run. The Amazons of the world evolved out of that, right? So we are yet to see some of these similar things translated to AI, but I'm sure it will be. It's just a matter of time. So what are the risks which is bringing? Currently, the hallucination risk definitely we are all talking about, but are we doing enough to put guardrails around that? I'm still doubtful. We are still in the stage of experimenting with Gen AI capabilities, right? So the bias, the fairness risk, the conduct risk, etc., which is coming up along with the use of AI tools, is still in the elementary stages of discussion. But at this stage, what organization like UAB is equipped with is a framework. At this point of time, responsible AI use frameworks have been implemented by most of the organizations, most of the financial institutions at least. So what can be done, what can't be done, what should be done, what shouldn't be done, etc., has been already defined. So that much is in progress. But again, as and when more and more use cases evolve, as and when more and more agentic AIs come into place, that is when we will see the real impact in the operational side, whether it is bringing efficiency into picture, whether it is bringing more faster decision making into the picture, etc., is still starting evolving in many organizations and all. One risk which I see, which all of us, including internal audit, can already help organizations mitigate in the longer run, is the data related risk. See, currently, to get a meaningful output out of any AI engine, you need the right data, right? The clean data. So many organizations are still struggling to have that kind of a clean data, which can be connected, the dots can be connected, and meaningful outputs can be brought out by using any of the AI engine sitting on top of those analytic AI tools. So this is where actually internal audit can already, and I think we have already been doing it. Whenever we are conducting any sort of audit, we can look at the availability of the data, the cleanliness of the data, the integrity of the data, and say that are these data elements at this point of time good enough for you to exploit the opportunities of AI, which is coming in. I think that is one of the forward-looking internal audit approach, which I think we should immediately start doing in organizations so that we can enable our organizations to be future ready.
This is a fantastic perspective, actually, Biju, and the point you raise about data integrity is very pertinent, timely, and valid. Actually, a piece of research by Google showed that 66% of organizations only use about 1% of the data they have. And AI is meaningless unless we have data to use. I've been doing a lot of, I love AI, by the way. I really am experimenting with this technology. I have my own boutique advisory and consultancy. And as a small business, you have to rely sometimes on so many people. And yeah, I'm getting efficiencies actually through my.
By the way, actually, if you allow me, let me ask, sorry to interrupt, but let me ask a little bit about you actually. How do you position yourself actually when you're talking to the boards, CAEs, risk leaders, etc.? I know that you are coming from a very rich background on consulting and you have those rich experience, but I know you have been seeing across the world multiple organizations struggling to move to the next level, right? Actually, they are all aspiring to get into the next level of enabling technology and AI and all. But still struggling. How do you advise them? What is your advice, and what do you see as a common bottleneck for all these organizations?
In terms of AI specifically, you mean?
Yeah, specifically, I'm talking
Okay,
about.
in terms of AI specifically, so I am not a technical person, and
Right.
I am not a technical person, but I am a business person. So I am a governance, risk, audit, but also with a very strategic add-on. So the work I've been doing with a lot of boards, part of my resilience conversations with boards is
Mm.
around the awareness and the use cases for how to use AI effectively to rethink the business model, including around the governance, risk, and audit.
Yeah.
How to actually also assess and understand the risks, because a lot of the risks, AI is putting fraud on steroid.
Yeah.
You in the banking sector, I'm sure you're seeing a massive rise in, in payment frauds and APP authorized push payments, and a lot of those, the weak link is never the technology, it is the people. And so AI is amplifying the scale capacity of the fraudsters, but organizations are not really building the awareness, the education, the prevention that needs to be with the people. And so I developed a program which I call actually the human firewall, that I've been working with boards on in terms of building those capabilities in their organizations. And that's again multidimensional, from the awareness and training to how they collaborate and communicate to the culture they're creating, so people can raise awareness and the psychological safety around raising concerns and all of that, because we've seen some massive rise in risks. So there is the work I'm doing with the boards. On one hand is the helping them build the mindset shift and cultural shift so they can build a human firewall, but also on the other hand is strategically thinking how can they utilize AI to transform and redesign their business, rather than just treat it as something that the CTO or the CIO will deal with, because it's not. It has to be like everything else, the tone at the top and filter down.
Yeah, very relevant and very timely work. I think that's a very good area. And actually, that is somewhere most of the organization need some external help. External eyes always help the people to give a different dimension onto this. Actually,
Yes.
when you're looking internally, many times you will oversee some of these things. And I think that's a good work you are doing. Good.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, the real risk in AI, as far as I'm concerned, the real risk in AI is not AI. It is leaders who are either, putting their head in the sand, or who are outsourcing judgment, courage, and influence to AI, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, as a audit, risk, and governance, we are really at a crossroads. So much is happening that, I believe if we don't ride the wave properly, it could be quite detrimental. But where do you see the profession heading over the next 5 to 10 years? And what are your fears and aspirations?
Before I answer that question, I should say from which point onwards I started thinking about future of internal audit. Again, very early in my CAE role, I think it was in 2010-11 time. One of my colleagues who was a management committee member defined to me what internal audit as per his boss's version was in another organization he was working. So he said that internal auditors are those people who come into a battlefield after the war is over to count the dead bodies and bayonet those who are injured. So
That's
that was
very
the definition.
grim. That's very sad and grim.
I know, but that was the definition. Actually, I immediately thought by the time I hang up my shoes, this should not be the impression of an internal auditor. At least people who have worked with me or the organizations where I have given a presence of mind should not be feeling this kind of feel for organizations. So obviously from that was kind of a defining moment. You asked earlier about a defining moment in my career. So probably that one comment from my colleague, I jokingly talked to him later about that, and even I wrote a LinkedIn article about that. Yeah, so that was a transitional point from there. From that point,
actually, I'm going to ask you to repeat this, Biju, because, I want people to hear that. Please repeat it. Auditors, if you are listening, please make sure you are not that. Biju, please repeat.
Yeah, so this was a definition of an internal auditor given to a very senior colleague of mine, which was, he told me that his boss used to define an internal auditor as somebody who comes into a battlefield once the war is over to count the dead bodies and bayonet who are injured at that point of time. So basically, this was something which stuck on me. This definition was stuck on me.
Certainly would stick.
Yeah,
that makes me feel very sad, actually. But unfortunately, the reality is there are auditors who do that.
See, I think this was the way it was perceived probably 20 years back. No doubt about it. I'm talking about 2010. So this is something happened in early 21st century. So the discussions around that. So obviously that was the impression which we had, internal auditors had once upon a time. But come 2025, I don't think any of the organizations have internal auditors in that category. I'm 99% sure, again, that 1% is still there, that all of us have transformed into a value-added partners kind of a role within the organizations. And still there is...
Not all, Biju. Believe me, not all.
Probably, yes, mostly probably it's a wish list for me. But still, let's say the policeman role, sometimes some of the internal audit functions still adopt the policeman role because of the organization dynamics. I don't blame internal auditors for that. I put it on organization dynamics, the expectation from the stakeholders, expectation from the shareholders, in fact, and the board as such, etc. And internal auditors sometimes in some organization play a policeman role. But even within that, you can always be a forward-looking policeman rather than looking at what happened in the past and actually just commenting on or counting the dead bodies on the field. So now actually, by more and more leveraging on audit, on data, I'm talking about data analytics. Right from very early days, my team used to leverage on Excel in a very big way. Then came teammate analytics and all. We now regularly use Tableau. We have Informatica as a base.
Excellent.
On top of that, we are using Tableau. Even we are using teammate solutions in very advanced ways, etc. Also to do our own analytics on with respect to data and all. So all these have helped. So what has evolved now? Continuous auditing has become much more mainstream. We used to say continuous auditing for the last 20 years, but the way the current audit teams, etc., does continuous auditing is actually without any dependency on technology teams or any dependency on the business teams. We are having our own access to the data. Yes. We can come up with our own meaningful analysis of the control environment on a near real-time basis and come up with meaningful findings which will help organizations to improve their controls on a regular basis. So this is a big thing which has happened with data analytics itself without even leveraging on AI. Now come AI. With AI coming into place, even in analytic AI space, I'm not even talking about the generative AI space. Analytic AI space itself, there's a lot of scope which internal auditors can start using immediately itself, right? Connecting the dots, actually bringing that analytics into a different level and giving proper meaning to those control gaps by connecting the dots, etc., can easily be done by machine learning algorithms rather than a manual eye. So I think this is something which some of the internal auditors, at least, are more and more working towards that, and we are seeing results on that. Actually, I'm not talking about the internal audit community is already there, but definitely 20-30% of them are striving towards reaching there, and I'm sure we'll start result on that. When it comes to Gen AI, when you talk about the generative AI part of it, the augmenting your reports and augmenting your risk assessments, etc., I think 80% of the auditors are already there, at least doing some sort of leveraging on those aspects to enhance the reports and findings and risk and all.
Yes.
I'm also starting to see some risk out of that from a CAE role itself. So when we see some of these findings and all coming into our table, we also start realizing that it is becoming a little more generic than organization specific, because if you are leveraging on Gen AI tools to come up with audit findings or even actually risk assessments, etc., sometimes it may start lose focus on the context. So that is where the leadership is very, very important, to direct the audit team members in the right direction to ensure that the context is never missed. The context of my organization will be completely different from a multinational bank in another country. So obviously, context cannot be missed because you are starting using a Gen AI tool, which globally being used by every other auditor. So these are a few.
That's really interesting. So I ran a survey recently, and the report will come out soon, and I had about 120 chief audit executives answer it from different parts of the world. According to that survey, 24% say that they are using AI, actively using AI, and about 60% they saying they are exploring. And but then we have the rest, which is about 20% or so not using AI at all. Audit, governance, and risk, and particularly audit have really the responsibility to step up, to empower themselves using AI, and to learn how they can bring the extra value through that level of intelligence. But it's not about making AI do the judgment and the intelligent work, but really handle more of that transactional, so they can free themselves up to invest more in their relationships, to invest more into the judgment, to think about the strategy. You and I really share that passion for two things, really. The passion and the advocacy for creating really world-class audit, risk, and governance, and elevating those functions to being proactive, forward-looking, to truly create value, and not be those that, not count dead bodies, but actually be part of the battlefield, actually be there fighting the fight with management, to support management, to partner with the business, and actually deliver that value. And we also share the passion about mentoring next generation, which we'll come to in a moment. But let's start with elevating the profession. What is your definition? If you were to give me a definition of a forward-looking, value-creating internal audit function, what would you say to CAEs listening to us today?
A forward-looking, value-adding internal audit function, first and foremost thing is they will have a seat at the table in all decision-making of the organization. They will be part of the management committee, risk committees, compliance committees, wherever. Of course, they are not a decision maker. They are not going to be a voting member in any of these committees, but they are invited wholeheartedly by the management and be part of those decision-making forums that shows the confidence of the organization in the internal auditor to add value at various stages. I always believe that a CAE doesn't need an audit report to bring change. He can bring change by his presence in the organization, by intervening at the right moments with the right stakeholders, with the right attitude and the vision. I think if you have that, I think that is how the organization will start right. All your activities, whether you are doing your continuous auditing, your periodic risk-based audits, your risk assessments, etc., all add to this. But ultimately, the moment that the organization, the stakeholders start seeing you as somebody who is a partner, who sees the organizational risk the same way the stakeholders, the shareholders, the board sees it, and is able to advise the management and show them the right direction on a timely basis. I think that is when actually I see that internal audit function or that CAE is seen as forward-looking and value creating within the internal audit function.
I really like the fact that you said, that a CAE does not need to wait for a report to make the change. This is so valuable because one of the problems I see is an obsession with audit reports and reports that are 30 pages long and that take forever and they arrive too late and they are really disconnected from reality. The point that you've made here about the CAE actually being in a timely basis in contact with the business is actually the true spirit of partnership and making that difference for the big and important decisions. I say to my clients often that impact and value creation is not really only about what we do, but it's about how we are perceived and how we partner with others to make it happen. And so that element of being actually part of the business, side by side, not coming afterwards, but being a co-pilot, guiding them on the conversations, guiding them as they embarking on a big program, being a friend and a trusted advisor and a partner, in taking an ownership in the final outcome makes a massive difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We are in a very unique position where we have a window to the organization. We get to see what's happening everywhere else. And there is a genuine thirst and desire from management to get our perspective if we know how to pass on this message.
Rania, you have been working very closely with the boards, CAEs and risk leaders so far. So I know that you have a long career, and now in the last 24 months since I'm seeing, you have been crisscrossing the world, discussing with the leaders across. So, how are you advising them to move from being a good to a great organization? And what are the challenges you see? Actually, there should be some common trends in challenges you see, whether it is Middle East or Europe or Asia Pacific and all, you're seeing common trends. So what are the common trends you're seeing and what is your role in getting them from good to great?
That's a great question. Thank you, Biju. Well, first, let's distinguish between boards and between CAEs because a slightly different approach to those. When it comes to boards, one of the really important things, particularly in light of all the changes we've been talking about and the unprecedented fast pace and all the interdependencies of these risks adding up, there's a big focus on resilience. And resilient organizations really start with a resilient board. But you will be amazed that how many boards are not themselves always that resilient. So, and what do I really mean? What do I really mean by that? Is like resilience at a board level comes from how the board interacts, how they do their decisions, how how open they are with each other, how fast they get the information and the relevant insights for them to be able to make the decisions that need to be done and change things. And so I do work with boards in building that resilience at the board level. The other aspect for board is, again, you'll be amazed how many boards still today do not fully understand what audit and risk and and compliance actually do, because you get boards, people who come from sales and marketing and technology and things like that, and even in finance, but they don't truly understand how they come together to form this cohesive, strong defense. And I work with boards to make audit, risk, and compliance work better together. And I advise them on aligning their assurance and on, making it real and practical. I also advise them how to ask questions from audit and risk, what to expect, what can they get, where they should push the buttons and not. CEOs and CFOs come to me typically around risk management. Again, a common mistake I often find is risk management as frameworks are so conceptual and esoteric and and theoretical that they are not really embedded, and or they become like tick boxes, something they do for for once or twice in the year, but risk is not being incorporated and in the way, in the mentality and the way that business do operate every day, to from an awareness to prevention to detection to actually decision making on those big strategic things. So I also work with CEOs and CFOs on that. And so, for example, embedding a more practical a more practical enterprise risk management, or focusing on a specific area. For example, one client I've been working on was particularly looking at joint ventures and a certain programs that they are launching. When
Okay.
it comes to audit and risk, you've got one hand, the people who technically really get it, and then you have another, on the other hand, you've got a group of people who they are a little bit stuck in the theory. You know how you talked a little bit earlier about independence and that they're not able to move beyond the concept of independence. I recently had a conversation with a potential client that he wanted to set the strategy for the department. And the whole conversation was around how he wants to fulfill the standards. And I'm
Mm.
thinking, and I'm saying to him, you're missing the point. It's not the standards are there to guide you, but you're not doing the strategy for the standards. You're doing the strategy for the business, and you've got to understand your business context, your business situation, and how you're going to link it to your business. So you've got this group of people that theoretically get it but don't really know how to implement it, and there's dissociation. And then you get a group of people who are technically really strong, but they are not still having that seat at the table. And so I work with both groups to bring more realism internal audit and to really dissect and guide them around what makes the big difference, which is around the mindset, the strategy, the relationships, the execution. And so I have developed various programs that I work with my clients that are multidimensional to actually transform and shift the performance so that they are talking about things like future and focusing on the data and focusing on the things that matter to the business, and also to shift the perception, because I believe it takes two to tango. It's not, of course, the tone at the top is very, very, very important, but we are in the driving seat. So unless we take responsibility as chief audit executives and chief compliance and chief risk, and nothing's going to happen. So it's about us driving. So how do we do that? I guide and coach, mentor, train the teams, and do advisory projects. And basically, the outcome is they do shift that, and they become this, AI minded, tech savvy, commercially astute, trusted strategic business partner.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, Rania. See, again, UAE has been in the forefront of this drive to bring organizations from good to great. Obviously, I think actually we are talking about good to great, right? So you have a big role to play in many of the organizations here. Also, you can definitely, I believe, actually, from what you said, you have a big role to play. So, am I going to see more and more frequently in UAE with more and more engagements here?
Well, I actually love the UAE, and on a personal level and on a professional level. And yes, absolutely. I mean, I've been doing work with clients all over, in UK, Europe, increasingly in the Middle East, and I'd love to see that grow more and more. I plan, to be there this year for sure. I'm also taking, some of my programs, which at the moment are very much delivered in-house, tailored to my client. I'm also planning to make some of those programs like publicly available, like a mastermind that we work together over some days, and so And if I decide to do that, definitely Dubai would be, and the UAE would be on my plan. And so, yes, definitely.
Good to hear that. Looking forward to seeing you more often here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We share a passion for two things, elevating the profession and also young talent. And I know that this is something that is close to your heart and that you've been doing a lot on. Tell me, when you look at, and I've met some of your teams, Biju, and I know you've got different age and generations there. And when you look at the young upcoming talent, this next generation, and you compare it with our, talent when we were coming up, what are you seeing in terms of changes and differences? And then, yeah, tell me.
Completely different, right? I say 30 years back, when I look back at my younger self, when I started the banking industry, and when I see some of the young kids coming into the industry now, completely different. Actually, the mindset, the thought process, the world around them has completely changed. So obviously, to manage and motivate somebody like that coming into internal audit profession is also completely different compared to those 2-3 decades back. For example, at our time and all, the loyalty to the organizations, etc., was considered as part of your key strengths. These days, I don't see that as a key strength in the youngsters at all. They are ready to move where their career is growing, where they get their recognition, where they are able to express themselves, rather than where they are being paid. So obviously, those attitude itself of a job itself has changed. So when frontline functions itself is facing that kind of a challenges, think about internal audit, where we need that extra effort to show what internal audit is all about to an youngster coming into an organization. So that is where actually me, along with the IAA, UAIA here, have been doing a lot of work on that aspect, whether it is training for more and more training for internal auditors under UAIA and this thing, or personal mentoring and guidance and all. It's happening on a regular basis and all. See, one thing which I have seen very big value add for them, their ability to adapt to changes is much better than us. Because they are born into a world where change is the norm, right? Actually, so for us, the change used to take 5 years, 10 years for something to come and establish itself. So them every year, every other year, there is a change, whether it is a technology change, whether it's a process change, whether it's a geopolitical change, whether it's a lifestyle change. Things are happening at a hectic pace for them. So that is one advantage. When more and more of them come into organization itself is going through the change. As leaders, if we can leverage that ability of them to keep them engaged meaningfully and be part of the internal audit of the future, I think then organization will start benefiting. It's not easy. Let me tell you, to retain them in internal audit with the right kind of vision and future being discussed and agreed upon with them is not easy. But that is a duty of every CAE, not only to this country, but to this profession itself, to bring the right talent into internal audit and make sure that they are prepared to take over the responsibilities in the future much more meaningfully than what we were able to transition into these roles in the past. So I think it's our commitment and it is our responsibility to this profession to engage with youngsters, young internal auditors, and youngsters in general, not only from internal audit, attracting people from technology into internal audit or other frontline functions into internal audit. These things are responsibilities of CAEs, and I believe most of us are doing a very good job with respect to that, and that is that's going to be the strength of the profession in the decades to come.
That is wonderful, wonderful, Biju, and so many pearls of wisdom there. And I believe that to attract talent, it's important to be a winning team, because young talent want to be part of a success story. So ensuring and working and investing on internal audit becoming a high profile, value creating, appreciated, celebrated team in the business, which obviously takes work and strategy and effort. But when internal audit is a winning team, talent will come and talent will stay.
Absolutely.
That's great. And reflecting on your rich 30 years of experience, I mean, you've had so many amazing insights, I'm sure, over your life. What would be like 3 life or career lessons that you would want to share with the young generation listening to us today?
So one of the things which I will tell my younger self 30 years back when I started the banking industry is the value of the culture of the organization. I worked in multiple organizations with multiple leadership teams and all. Where the culture was conducive to growth, I see people growing along with the organizations in a very positive frame of mind and all. But where I've seen actually organization have some toxic culture, and I've seen attritions being high, people are really in a frustrated mood, a lot of coffee room kind of conversations happens in a negative sense and all. I strongly believe that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So
Yes.
that's a saying. That's a saying. Actually, you may have seen management forums.
Yes,
But
yes, I agree with that.
I didn't know about this long time back, but I saw that happening in front of my eyes in multiple organizations. So by now, I'll always advise youngsters to be part of a culture which actually takes the organization and yourself to the next level. So that is one advice probably which I'll give to the youngsters. Second thing is that to be at the right place at the right time with the right skills. So the career progression is all about that. You just cannot have any of these two and say that you progress in your career. You have to be there at the right time with the right skills. So that is where continuous learning is the most important thing in a career. So whether you are at a CAE level, at a mid-management level, or at an entry level, continuous learning is the key to success. Without learning, you will definitely not progress in your career. So you should always be prepared to be at the right place, at the right time, with the right skills. The third and very important thing is the collaborative work environment you create. Again, it's part of the culture, definitely. But as leaders, we always select people who can work in a team environment, collaborate with each other, rather than somebody who is actually a lone wolf, right? Actually, that is something which I believe most of the leaders are. So the sooner you establish yourself as somebody who adds value to the team and have a collaborative work ethics and all, the better it is for you to move up in your career paths. So these are the 3 things which probably I'll give my younger self of 30 years and any youngsters who wants to listen to my words here.
These are amazing pearls of wisdom, Biju. Really very helpful and very anchored in reality. I love what you said about culture, its strategy for breakfast. This is so true, absolutely true. There's a wonderful saying that I love. People join organizations, but they leave people. So this is so true, actually. They were doing some studies showing that more fraud and things like that rise in toxic cultures as well. So it's really interesting. So it's not only about the motivating the people, which is very, very important, and attracting the talent and building the career, but it's about obviously building the fabric of the organization. Let's recapture these 3 amazing life and career lessons, Biju, that you have for our listeners, so we cement them in everyone's minds. So first is the importance of culture and building a positive culture. Secondly, it's about being ready at the right time with the right skills. And thirdly, the value of collaboration and cooperation to create magic. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Biju, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Truly appreciated. Is there anything else you wish to say before we wrap up?
That's it, Rania. Wish you all the best for this podcast. I believe actually the way you are bringing a lot of internal audit thought leaders into these kind of discussions, etc., will definitely help the profession. And more such kind of discussions, etc., should happen in the industry, and it should reach maximum number of people, not just internal auditors.
I really, really, really appreciate that, Biju. It means a lot, and thank you. It's been great to have you, and I am sure that our audience will greatly benefit from these rich insights that you have shared. I wish you all the very best to yourself and to the UAE IIA. I look forward to seeing you hopefully in Dubai soon as well.
And thank you. See you soon.
Thank you. For all our listeners, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for tuning in. And if this resonated with you and you would like to learn more about how you could elevate your own audit risk and governance or build more resilience in your organizations, please get in touch. My contact details and those of Biju will be in the show notes. And let's connect and explore how I could support you and your team with advisory, mentoring, training, or speaking at your next event. And thank you for tuning in. And till next episode of Impact Legacy with Rania. Thank you for tuning in to Impact Legacy with Rania. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe or follow so you never miss an episode, and click the bell to be notified of new releases. If this inspired you, please pass it on. Your likes, comments, and shares help us reach more people, because together we can grow this journey of influence, impact, and legacy.